A few years ago, I decided to make a huge change in my life. I decided to leave Blizzard and Riot and Epic Games. I was doing contract work for these companies. I decided that wasn't enough. My ego needed more. I needed more. So I left all of that behind. I decided to stop doing all contract work for all of these big AAA studios. I said, screw the fortune and fame, you know, and the job security, you know, like I'm gonna take my shot at the billions. I'm gonna buy a small country after Twilight Monk comes out. Because everybody knows the real, let's see if I can say this with a straight face. The real money is in indie games. Yeah. What the hell was I thinking? Well, there could be a lot of money in indie games, but it's a long shot. Everybody kind of knows that, right? Right? Well, I took this big, I would say it's a huge risk. I want to talk a little bit about, you know, why, basically, throughout this whole video. So buckle up, get ready for some drama, get ready for some inside baseball. I'm going to reveal all the dirty laundry from these big corporate game studios. Nah, dudes, it ain't that kind of video. But certainly if you're considering working at a game studio or you're contemplating should you start your own business, this would be a good video for you to listen to. I'm going to give you some of my own experiences with it. While I'm talking about this, you can watch me work on the Twilight Monk video game. This is a game that's being developed. It is a open world Metroidvania, so it's bringing something new and fresh to the table as far as Metroidvanias go, and it's being published by Gravity Games Arise out of Japan. It'll be releasing on Steam and the Nintendo Switch in early 2025. Now, I know that many people who are listening or watching, it might be their dream job to have done the kind of things that I had done at those companies. And I want to clarify, like, I don't want to stomp on anybody's dream, man. If that's all you've been thinking about, it was my dream for a long time, too. I got so many rejection letters before I finally got into Blizzard back in like 2006, okay? So like, I get it. It was a great job for a while. You know, it had its downsides too, and I won't go too much into that. But even back then, it was like, you kind of knew whatever you were working on was probably gonna be a mega success, you know, and that's a pretty cool job. I mean, if I wore my Blizzard hoodie around town, I had people like stopping me just to talk to me. Like, you know, you get service at a restaurant, they throw in extra stuff because they're like, oh, I love Blizzard games, you know? Like, that was a really cool experience to have. I don't know if it's like that anymore, though. And at least for a long time, it was like really, you know, stable work. It was like, even during the recession back in '08, it was like, we were stable. We were still hiring even. So there was a lot of, at least, illusion of stability there for many, many years if you were good at your job. And if you were on good terms with your managers, I would say. And you might be thinking, well, as far as like, you know, game industry jobs go, that sounds pretty posh. That sounds pretty like cozy, you know. Why leave? Why would you leave that? Who in their right mind walks away from that? It's like dating a supermodel. You walked away? What? It's like, yeah, you know, I got a lot going on, you know. I want to explore my options, you know what I'm saying? Set my employment status to it's complicated. It seems nuts, seems crazy, but to get to the point, the long and the short of it is that I got my start in indie comics, and I never really lost that independent spirit. And there's a part of working at those big game studios where it just feels all very, I guess I would use the word predictable. It's like you knew you were going to be making a game that was going to be a success, or it was going to sell pretty well. The role was fairly limited. I mean, concept art, you know, you're doing a lot of world building and like creating lore and creating the visual look of a lot of things and maybe even contributing to the story. But it's still pretty limited. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people involved, and ultimately, I just found that I really enjoy working with small teams. I like working with teams of like less than 7 people, 10 to 7 people. Because you get to contribute more. You get to have your hands in everything. And there are fewer hands in the pie, fewer cooks in the kitchen, so it's easier to just get things implemented. And you don't usually have the time or budget to contemplate and debate and go back and forth. It's like usually it's one of the first things you do. So not much gets thrown away when you're doing your own indie thing. But when you're working in-house, when you're working for one of those big studios, I found the bigger the studio, the more they throw away. And I did that for like 20 years. This whole time, for all those years, I had been like sketching in my sketchbook this, you know, whole world of Twilight Monk that I've been wanting to make. And, you know, at some point you do work for other people's games for, 20 years, and you're going to start going, well, hey, maybe when is it time to like take that shot? And I get it. Like for a lot of people, they're not like that. Like a lot of people aren't sitting around like dreaming up factions and dreaming up city ideas and conflicts between characters or like big overarching character stories. Most people aren't thinking that way while they're working on other people's stuff. I am. I'm one of those types of people. And so like, I also combine that with that independent, like indie comics history. And of course, it just makes a lot of sense that this is the direction I would go. It's like making my own games. If you're relating a lot to what I'm saying and you don't like the idea of selling a lot of your ideas or having a lot of your ideas thrown out and you don't need that job security, well, you might want to just bypass getting a job for a game studio and start making your own indie games as soon as possible. I mean, essentially, that's what Twilight Monk was. I was building the universe through novels and comics and art books. And I taught myself to program from YouTube videos. And then I made a little demo of the Twilight Monk game and cut a little trailer and put that up on Steam. And before you know it, I was getting publisher opportunities. So like, that's a very realistic path to go. And ultimately, it really does come down to one thing that I've talked about many times in my videos in the past, which is that, death is coming for all of us. We don't have a lot of time. And if you really think about your career, you think about like what you want to do with your life, maybe if you're lucky, you get, 30 or 40 years of actual work years, where you've got the energy to really pour your all into something. And if you're doing the math on it, it's like, well, any math adds up to this equation. Pursue your dream as quickly as you can. Because the sooner you get on the road, the sooner you start learning what you need to do and learning what you need to know in order to accomplish that goal. And if you don't, then time creeps up on you pretty quick. And if the moment doesn't present itself, you got to make the moment present itself. I worked for other game studios for 20 years. It's time for me to do my thing. And I strategized and I planned and I set things up so that the moment would present itself. And you're just like, yeah, is this the moment? Is this the time? Can I just step on over to this other little raft? And you just have to take that plunge. Don't hesitate or else it'll pass you by. Just like Eminem when he goes up on that stage and his baby's crying and his mama's beating his ass and he's hooked on drugs or whatever, the Mom Spaghetti song. You only get one shot. So I guess a key thing here to point out is like, I'm grateful for all that time that I got to work on some of the world's like freaking most awesome games ever. And like, that's a really cool thing to have in your sort of like history. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot of things that I find like corporate game development is doing wrong lately. I don't want to go into that, like I'm just going to try to prove them wrong by doing it the way that I think it should be done. And that's what we're doing. I see the trajectory of corporate game development going the wrong direction. And I want to change that. I want to change that as a gamer, a person who loves this industry. Basically, as a creator, I don't want to look back on my life with a lot of regrets. I don't want to look back on my life and think, well, man, I really wish I would have written that novel. No, I did. I wrote 5 novels. I don't want to look back and think, oh, I really wish I would have come back to Creed. No, I did come back to Creed and did a 120-page story. And it was the best one I ever did, an indie comic, I don't want to look back on my life and go, no, I never like went and worked for my dream game studio. No, I did. I worked for Blizzard and Riot and Fortnite. I don't want to look back on my life and think, oh man, I really wish I would have started a YouTube channel. No, I did. And it fucking blew up and it did really well for many, many years. And I don't want to look back, most importantly, in the context of this video, I don't want to look back and think, well, I never like branched out to try to start my own indie game studio. No, I did. Right now I am doing that. And that is one of my big sort of bucket list goals of things that I always wanted to do. I still have more beyond that. And hopefully I'll have enough time and resources and opportunities in my life, to still do that. Twilight Monk animated TV show or film? Maybe. One of the big things that I'm all about here on my YouTube channel is I want to encourage you to go for your own dreams, as hard and difficult as it may be. I don't want to sugarcoat it and tell you it's easy. It's not. It's really freaking hard. You're going to run into a lot of slam doors in your faces. And that's okay. I'm still running into that myself, I don't want to go into that. Let's just say that some days it's going to rain, and some days it's going to rain on your parade and you're going to have slam doors in your face, and that's okay. You still find a way to get around it. You still find a way to achieve your goals. And certainly I would hope that for anybody who's listening to my channel, you know, if you have goals and dreams, don't waste any time. Don't let other people talk you out of it. And certainly you don't want to be looking back on your life and thinking you woulda, shoulda, coulda, you know, and that's something that I like to help people along with in their goals as well, which is why I make all the YouTube videos that I do, and also why I make all the courses and tutorials and workshops that I make over on my Gumroad channel. So I hope that in some way inspires you to just grab life by the horns yourself, go for whatever it is that you want to go for. Take some big risks, but don't risk the lives or well-being of people who are relying or depending on you. And I absolutely wish you the greatest success in the world. Please do consider subscribing and ring that bell, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right, ciao.